I give 10 more seconds for everyone to take seats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moments of Truth workshop. And I know it's the perfect time of the afternoon. I think this is a very good time where we have an opportunity to improve a little bit the flow of the blood in our veins. And what I usually like to do in workshops, and I have to say, we already did this 2 weeks ago in Prague. So I'm curious how you will perform this exercise for the beginning. We do a musical team building. So, if you believe that growth happens outside your comfort zone, can you raise your hand? Very good. Are you up for going a little bit outside your comfort zone in the next 60 seconds?
Yes.
Yahoo! Very good. So a couple of people are shaking their heads, but most said no. And I think this is a great way to start a workshop. So, we will be singing a song together, and some of you might say, but Lucas, we do not know the lyrics, we do not know the song. That's okay, because the lyrics are going to be on the screen. So you will have no excuse, and I believe that many of you know this song, and those of you who do not know the song, it's a good song to learn. And I also know, well, we have different levels of English around the room, but this song is definitely going to teach you some very useful vocabulary. So you ready for it?
Yeah!
Whoa! You deserve a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You have just outperformed the capital of the Czech Republic Toastmasters of Prague. Well done. Okay? I can guarantee you nothing else we're going to do in this workshop is going to be more silly than this. From now on, you can feel safe and relaxed. Let me tweet here. Now, Orpheus has a message for you. And this line, of course, it depends what you are focused on, but truly, from my experience, and I'm in Toastmasters for the past 6 years, this topic, when related to the improving quality of the clubs that you are members of, this truly is very, very important topic. So what you're going to take away from this workshop might change the way you're running your Toastmasters clubs and the way you're looking at the quality in the clubs. About 4 weeks ago, I spent a day with the international president, Balraj Arnaslam. He came to Prague, so I was walking him around. I took him to the pub, and I drank beer, he drank iced coffee. Well, that's fine. And I was, of course, asking him questions, and he gave me just one answer. And the answer was a number. And, you know, the ultimate answer to the universe, life, and everything, do you know what number is that? 42. Yeah, so 42, it would be a number that's a little bit too high. He gave me number 30. And if we want to simplify cup quality into one number, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the number. It's number 30. Anybody has a guess what this number means? Age? Exactly. If your club members are 30, that's the best. No. I think we're open for diversity, so people of all ages, as long as they're above 18, they can join Toastmasters and they are welcome. So this number, it's a number of members, ideal number of members, the lower number of members that every club should have. And Balraj explained why this is such a good number. and it goes from pure mathematics or statistics. He said, Lucas, when your club has 30 members, everybody is not going to visit every meeting every time, will they? No. So the statistic is that it's about 60% people, 60% members appear in any given Toastmaster meeting, which means that if your club has 30 members, you have 18 people in the room. And if you can remember your personal experience, 18 members, 18 people sitting in the room, it's just about the number that creates kind of this vibrant, a little bit challenging atmosphere. And so when you have this amount of members, you are clear to have all roles in the meeting covered. You do not need to have double roles. Your VP education is not being stressed before every meeting, and so on. So if I should oversimplify, and if there's one thing I would like you to leave this training with, it's number 30, so-called the magical number. But if I finish my workshop now, I imagine you will be a little bit disappointed. So I'm going to continue and explain a little bit more topics on the moments of truth. Intermezzo, quick game. Does anybody have a guess who these people all on the slide are? Who could they be? Can you repeat?
Businessman.
Okay. Any other guesses?
Businessman.
Businessman. Very good. I'm not going to give you the answer now. I will give it to you in the end of the training. Okay. So, but and also Adrian perfectly introduced the topic. Everybody in Toastmasters wants to be President's Distinguished. We all want to be President's Distinguished, everything President's Distinguished. By the way, the lady on my left-hand side is Andreea Krașmari, originally from Romania, but now residing in Prague. She was area director located in Prague, and this is our celebration of having a President's Distinguished Club for MSD Prague Toastmasters. But the question you might be asking yourself is, well, President's Distinguished, but how do I do that? And the concept of moments of truth is the concept that will tell you what you need to do in your club every week, or if you're meeting bi-weekly, every meeting after meeting, step by step, to ensure that your club meetings have the appropriate quality, so it's going to be almost automatic that your club will get these awards. Okay, this is the idea of the whole concept. Now, what the moments of truth, where did it come from? Does anybody know where moments of truth came from? Any guesses? Toastmasters magazine, very good. It certainly is there. And by the way, great that there is somebody who's reading Toastmasters magazine. Quick feeling, if you are reading Toastmasters magazine, can you raise your hand? Room to improve, but not too bad. I see worse rooms. Okay, so it's definitely there. But originally, I can tell you that this concept is not something that will be discovered by this non-profit organization, Toastmasters International. It's actually a business concept that was developed by Jan Carlson. He was a CEO of Scandinavian Airlines, and he joined that company as CEO in the beginning of 1980s. And at the time, airline industry was not really, let's say, the most they did not compete that much for the praise of their customers. They were not offering very nice service. The idea was, okay, you enter a plane, the plane doesn't fall down in the middle, you leave the plane, and that's what you're getting. That's what you should be happy with. But he found at the time, at the beginning of the 1980s, the company was in some difficulties, and he decided, okay, we need to change something. So what he developed was this concept of the moments of truth. And the moments of truth, they were moments when the staff of the airline was in contact with the customers. So at every time that the airline they got in touch with customers, any means of communication was identified as a moment of truth, and therefore something that they could be fixed and improved. So in this way, he revolutionized the airline industry. Now, what I would like to do now is, I would like you to imagine something. If you like, you might close your eyes, but you don't have to if you don't feel like it. You might want to close your eyes, and I would like you to think of the best coffee shop ever that you visited, that made the strongest impression. Think about the best coffee shop you ever visited. What did it see? What did it taste? we are fine. You can open your eyes if you feel like it. Would anybody like to share their experience from the best coffee shop in the world they ever visited?
Starbucks.
Starbucks? Tell me more about it. Why was it the best one?
I saw wood and fire, the combination that I like. I heard the politeness, and I tasted the best coffee I ever.
Thank you. Was that any specific Starbucks shop?
Yeah, it was in Bucharest, in Milipa.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any other best coffee shops in the world?
Temple.
Oh, tell me more.
Because they have special coffee.
Okay.
Then you have the experience. You are really feeling that good vibes you go there. And you are feeling very welcome.
Okay. Thank you. One more? Please.
When you go to the outside restaurant, you go take those is a shop. And I like the fact that the coffee station.
Thank you. By the way, I really love visiting coffee shops, so if you didn't have a chance to speak, please after the workshop send me a message with a tip, and when I visit your city, I will definitely visit the coffee shops you recommended. But beside that, I would like to remind you, point something out. So there are the coffee shops, they might differ in a couple of things, but most of the things they have in common, right? So they have great customer service, they have great environment, the coffee tastes good, and thinking about this, there's a quote comes from Anna Karenina. I think we can transform it for the purpose of Toastmasters. All happy clubs are alike, and if you want to make sure that your club is going to be one of the happy ones, follow the moments of truth. This is going to be the perfect way to do that. Now, what exactly are the moments of truth? What exactly? So there are 6 categories. And we're going to look into each of these categories. What I would like to invite you is, first I will read out aloud what are these points. We'll talk about them. That's okay. And then I will just let you raise your hands to see how many of these points we will display on the slides, how many of these you're doing in your clubs, and how many you have rooms for improvement. Okay? But I will remind you of that a little bit later. So, first impressions of your Toastmaster Club. First one, guests are greeted warmly and introduced to officers and members. Guest book and name tags provided for the guests. For example, one of the biggest impressions I had was when I visited the Toastmaster Club as a guest. I messaged with somebody from the club before, and when I came to the club, there actually was my name tag printed out before the meeting. That was really impressive. What else? Meeting room professionally arranged, clearly. Then, meeting location convenient. It does not mean to me that your club has to be in the center of the city, but it's important that it's easy to find. Sometimes it happened to me that I was making a club visit and I came to the building, but I could not find the Toastmaster Club. I was running around the building, first floor, second floor, third floor, until I realized that the building had second entrance, and therefore I had to go to the second entrance of the building. Guests are introduced to address the club, and guests are invited to join that club. So just to have a quick feeling in the room, what I would like to do now is, and don't do it yet, I will just explain. I would like all of us to raise our hands, so everybody will raise their hand in a minute, and then I will be asking, okay, if you're doing only one of these things, put your hand down. If you're doing 2 of these things, put your hand down. So in the end, only the people who are doing everything will keep their hands up. Okay? Is that all clear? But please, it's not about evaluating anyone, it's just about getting the feedback how things are working, when there are opportunities to improve. Okay? All clear? So, please, everybody, put your hand up. Have a look, so you know how many of these points you are already doing in your Toastmaster Club. How many you're doing. And now, one by one, if there's only one of these things you're doing, put your hand down. If you're doing two of these things, hand down. If you're doing three of these things, hand down. If you're doing four, hand down. Right. If you're doing five of these, hand down. Brilliant, we got quite a few people who are from a club that are doing 6 of these things. I would like to invite that gentleman in the red polo shirt. Could you please tell us a little bit about which one of these you think is most important and how you're doing that in your club? Please, can you tell us your name?
Nico.
Nico.
The most important, I think, is the first one. That the guests have to be greeted with a smile on their face.
Okay.
And to be presented to the members and be given a name tags. And the greeter should talk with the guests in order to introduce them to the club and present what's coming up next.
Okay, so the greeting, and also how do you make sure that all of these things are actually happening in a club meeting?
I do quite a lot of those with the help of the sergeant.
Okay. All right.
Actually, I take an implication personally in all of those things there.
Super. Thanks you. Applause for Nico. So out of those of you who didn't keep your hand all the way up, is there somebody who would like to share about the point that you were missing? Why do you think that was missing? Please. Could you tell us your name? Korean.
Yes.
And speak a little bit louder, please.
Okay, so point number 2, name tags provided, not all the time for the members, but I would say that 90% of us have the tags.
Right.
So that's the only thing missing, but I suppose that now it is clear out to improve next time.
Right. Thanks. And thanks for sharing, Korean. Thank you. And as I mentioned in the beginning, right, because, well, the idea is not to be perfect from the very beginning, but how you can treat these moments of truth, it's like the checklist of what are all the things that you need to do to really have your club top quality. And what I can tell you that each of them contributes to the people who are visiting your club and your members having a really great first impression. The one thing I can share is there is one club that I know in Prague. The one thing that they are doing, they have assigned meet and greet person before every meeting. And that person might be changing, so it does not need to be VP membership. They have that on the agenda, meet and greet. And what the person's job is to welcome everybody who's coming into the club. Doesn't matter whether that's a new person or a member, but everybody who enters the room gets a nice handshake, gets a nice smile, and gets a nice welcome. I can tell you, the moment I enter the room, the moment I enter their meeting, they just set the level of my mood on that evening 1 or 2 levels higher. Galin, there's something you want to say?
Yes, I have a question. Which club in Prague are you talking about?
I will tell you later. At the end of the workshop.
You don't remember.
You will. Okay, we can discuss that later. We continue. Area number 2, membership orientation. Again, what are the points? What are the points there? Because sometimes for a person who wants to become a new member of Toastmasters, it can be a little bit too complex, right? Maybe especially after the introduction of pathways, which make it even more exciting, but maybe also a little bit more complicated. So what's important over there? Formal induction of members. When a person becomes an official member, formal induction in front of every person in the club with nice applause. We continue with assignment of mentor. Then the next is explain education program, and again, particularly with pathways, that's important. By the way, quick check in the room. How many of you have already started your pathways? How many of you have already done at least one project? Okay. Thanks for sharing. Again, this one, it's very important, particularly when you want to address new people joining your club, because every new person that joins your club has to start with pathways, right? Then it's a little bit difficult for you to introduce them to what they need to do when you actually don't know. So that's a hint. We continue. Learning needs assessed. That means whoever becomes a member has a conversation with someone, VP Education or a mentor. What is it that they really want to take away from their Toastmaster experience? Speaking roles aside, that's clear that the guests, the new members, they do not keep coming to the club just watching like a theater, but they actually get the new role. They get explained how they can sign up for the new role. And members are involved in everything that the club does. And I can share you from my own experience, at some point when I was in my home club practices Toastmasters, we were working really well. The club was really successful at that time. It was about 3 years ago. And we were so successful, we were such a good group, that whoever came as a new member felt like an outsider, because we were such a good group together, that the people who are new, they felt like, oh, these guys are so good together, they do not need me. So this is one thing to keep in mind, that no matter how friendly you are as a group, that you keep staying open to the people who are coming in. That was my lesson I took 2 years ago. So again, we do the same exercise. I would like all of you to put your hands up. And if there's one thing, is there only one thing you're doing? Put your hand up. If you're doing 2, hand down. If you're doing 3, hand down. Right. 4, hand down. Right. 5, hand down. We have a couple of people who are doing everything from the membership orientation. Please keep your hands up. The 6, all perfect 6. Hands up, very good. I would like to ask Roberta, tell us about how mentors are being assigned in your club.
Okay, this is what I want in my club. I joined my club I think 3 months ago. I can say that it's not all these categories are in our club, but it's what I want for our future. And my president can also agree with this point of view. So this is what I want to do in the future.
Thanks for sharing it. It's very good that you're putting focus on this. Because again, having a mentor, having a mentoring program is one thing that really can make a big difference, right? When there's somebody comes as a new member and they already pair with somebody who's more experienced, who explains them their journey, who explains them what are the possibilities in Toastmasters, it's such a tremendous difference than when they are just thrown, they get some pile of manuals or they get some pathways, online bootcamp, and then they need to figure everything on their own. So these all are crucial things. Again, please.
Question.
Yes.
So I think this is the first question refers to the old education program. Is this something that will be updated for pathways? Because on pathway we have no manual.
Can you repeat what you asked to be updated?
So I think the first bullet represents the old. It's true for all training or education program, because at that time every member received 2 manuals.
Right.
But for pathways, nobody or only at request to receive manuals. So
Right.
is there a version of updating?
Right, I understand that. So what you need to do there is you need to make sure that what this means basically that there is some formal induction when somebody becomes a member, that you recognize the fact that there is in the end of club meeting, for example, in club business, you say we have this new member Andrei Popescu, and that Andrei comes to the front of the stage and he gets an applause and every guest that is there looking for the first time, they see, okay, when I become the member, this is the recognition that I will get from the club. Yeah? So this is the reason. And thanks for the comment. Thanks for the question. Any other questions to these 6? Membership orientation. We're good?
Yeah.
Right. Mentoring, truly, for me personally, it was a big differentiator for Toastmasters. Why I stayed in the club. Fellowship, variety, and communication. What that means. Guests are warmly greeted, warmly welcome. Then, enjoyable educational meetings planned. That means it's not just about speeches, but you make sure that in the club it's always something that people can take away from, also from the speeches. Social events, right? Parties, picnics, all these things. One thing, what all of you actually are doing right now, participation in district events, but what you can do the moment you come back to your club, because now you have some experience. You have experience from meeting people from the outside, you have experience watching some workshops, some from them that will be useful for you for both your speaking as your leadership. It's important that you take that experience and think about, okay, how can I translate this to the members of my club? How can I make them understand the experience that I had, so that for the next boot camp or for the next division conference, they are willing to join as well. The way to do this is maybe doing a speech, maybe sharing the videos and things like that. Inter-club events encouraged. That means particularly when there's more than one club in town, figuring a way out how to collaborate. And then the last thing, newsletter, website, not necessarily just from the club, but also the division newsletter and so on. I saw a pile of newsletters over there. Again, it's important that you do not just keep them for yourselves, but you figure out a way how you can take them to the members of your club. Same exercise as we did before. Hands up, everyone. Okay, who is doing 3 things or less? 3 things or less, and down. 3 things or less. Okay, who's doing 4 things? And down. 5 things. And down. Perfect 6. You're perfect 6 gentlemen here in the front. Would you please tell us the secret?
Alright, for me, Toastmasters is not just about communication skills and leadership. For me, Toastmasters is about the people.
Right.
It means the people, they are in the club. When I talk to the new people, I tell them, look, you have something special in you. You need to we need to get that special, that gift from you. And I compare to the places in Romania. We have a lot of nice places in Romania, but they are unknown because we don't have the roads to take to them.
Right.
Toastmaster coming to build that roads that can show the beautiful things we hide inside us to the world. Then we can take these things and show to the whole world and use them in the real life, in our job, in our life, and that's the way I see the club.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I agree. It's not just about the learning and improving our skills and careers. The fellowship and the possibility to meet with like-minded people is very strong motivation for all of us, and we who are here, we feel it strongly. But to many people who will visit your club for the first time, or for many members who are there, this is very strong as well. And one example, again, from our district, how to make sure this happens, how to make sure that the guests are asked to address the club. Before, in our club, sometimes we would forget. So what we did, we just on the agenda in EasySpeak, we created this item. So every time Toastmasters is following the agenda, he knows that at some point there is the moment to ask the guests, hey, what would you like to tell us? Can you introduce yourselves? The small things, and it really made a difference.
That the communication skills and the leadership skills are, you have to own these skills for the success, for your own life.
Thank you. One more example from our past district, from our Polish friends. One thing that they are really good at is organizing collaboration between clubs. They do this in Warsaw. It's called alpha meetings. It's not what you imagine it is, but okay, the alpha meetings, it's a special meeting that is organized by one clubs, and they have in Warsaw they have I think about 20 clubs, so that every month a different club takes leadership in organizing that alpha meeting. And what they do is they organize a meeting where they invite something like the best of Warsaw. So it's not just the people from one club who are filling the agenda, but they invite the best or most active speakers from the whole city. This results in two things. The first thing is, clearly, they create a very strong meeting. And they also add usually a workshop on a specific topic to make it even more attractive for the public. And they publish it on Facebook, on Meetup, and so on in different groups. So they really get big attendance and more PR for Toastmasters. And the other advantage is they really get to every month, they get all the clubs in the city collaborate and work together in making that meeting happen. So this is one thing that truly worked well for them, and this is also one of the reasons why they have 20 clubs in Warsaw. Any other questions to the fellowship and variety area? All clear? Alright. Next, program planning and organization. Well, agenda published in advance. Is there somebody who is not doing that? You don't need to answer. If you're not doing it, you should be doing it. But here what I would like to highlight, again, best practice from Sebastiano Finocchiaro, who was Toastmaster in Copenhagen. He shared. Not just they published the agenda in EasySpeak 1 week in advance, but they also published on Facebook the names of the speakers, the titles of their speeches, and they publish it there. The advantage what you get from that is that the friends of the speakers get notification on Facebook, and then it grabs more people, attracts more people, friends of friends to that meeting. They are truly successful with that. They did it in a university club in Copenhagen. So, publish the program in advance. It always helps. Members know their responsibilities. The magical trick for this is, again, in practice is Toastmasters, what we had in the very beginning, and what I'm bringing back to our MSD, our corporate club now, is printed out, brief description in every role, for every role in every meeting, have it printed out in the meeting. So even when a guest comes who's never been to Toastmasters before, and maybe you're lacking the last person to do the time or the counter, if you can hand that person brief description of the role, they can jump in, they just need to read it 2 minutes, and then they are ready to go. Brief description of the role, prepared. All projects are manual projects. It seems obvious, but so many times I see people doing random speeches, which is not that useful, and also doesn't that much support the development. Well, beginning and end of time, I think we're okay with that. Fun table topics and helpful evaluations. This again, sometimes in some clubs people say, well, we do not want to be so optimistic in our evaluations. We really are okay with being very tough and critical. It can work in some specific clubs. Just when you're doing that, keep in mind the impression or the person who comes for the first time to the club is a little bit scared of public speaking, and then he hears somebody give evaluation like, you know what, Karin, your speech, it really was terrible. Not just it was worse than you did most of the time, but it was even worse than you did before. Yeah, so that might make the people a little bit nervous. So make sure that there's always something at least a little bit positive in the evaluations. Take it from the perspective of the person visiting the club for the first time. We will skip the voting here, but tell me, is there some point that is unclear in any way? Is there any point that you believe needs more clarification or more discussion? Questions, comments, please?
I have an issue with all projects or manual projects.
Okay.
For example, the winners of the area competitions would like to train their speeches for the next level. And they do that in a club environment.
Right.
And not necessarily align it with the project from the manuals or from the templates.
Right.
Any comments on that?
Thanks for raising the question. In that particular case, what I would do, I would not take it as a manual project, but I would clearly state, and I believe you're doing that, introduce to the audience, look, Ovidiu wants to practice and make a speech perfect, and therefore he is giving here his competition speech. And in that case, that might work. Thanks for raising it.
Another issue?
Yeah.
Some clubs have a special section, like the Book of the Week, or at our club we have a section called Why So Serious, which is a funny speech, 3 to 4 minutes.
Right.
It's not a project, a manual project, but we have it.
Right.
Any restriction from your direction on that?
Oh, so the last thing, I definitely do not want to give any restrictions, right? So everything you hear is just a guidance for you, and in the end, you are running the clubs the way you decide to run your clubs. Right? Everything we're discussing here is, first of all, point of view. It's my opinion combined with this base of knowledge from Toastmasters International. In this particular case, it's something that's a bit different. Basically, what this means is when you have a speech, somebody says, okay, I'm giving a speech today, a standard speech, it should follow manual, because sometimes when people in some clubs get lazy and they say, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to give a speech and with no objectives. And the idea is every performance on stage should have objectives so that the people speaking can evaluate whether they achieved or did not achieve their objectives. And this is what this should ensure. Thanks for the question. There was one more. Yes.
Do you have any tips or tricks for ending the meetings on time?
Yes, I do.
You become German.
Yeah.
We cannot do that. Yeah.
I can answer that. So, first of all, if it consistently happens that your meeting goes over time, it might be worth adding a couple of minutes to the agenda of the meeting. That's the first. Or cutting some items from the agenda, because clearly maybe you're trying to put so much in too little time. The other thing is, what we also introduced when we had an issue with this in my home club, that meetings are consistently over time, we just gave this ultimate right for the Toastmaster. So timer shows red 30 seconds after there is a knock, and we told every member, if you speak 10 seconds after the knock, the Toastmaster is going to stand up and is going to make the people applaud. In district council meetings, this is exactly what happens when the candidates, they have their 2-minute speeches, and after 2 minutes, no matter how far they are in the speech, even if they're in the middle of the sentence, the presiding officer starts clapping, and that's where the speech is over. What is important? That everybody buys in to this idea. You cannot just dictate like this, dictatorially tell people, okay, now I'll finish it, let's go. Once it happens also in our club. So there was a speaker, it was a lady, she was talking, and then the Toastmaster, he was sitting here, he stalked behind her, and he grabbed her and says, you don't want to do that. Positive learning environment, remember? But if you agree that this is how you want to do it, that you want to keep your meetings on time, this might work. Okay. Let's follow through to the last 2 areas. What we've got here. Alright, for the variety, again, Professional Toastmasters Praha, it's a Czech-speaking business club. What they do, they every now and then, at some point it was every month, now it's maybe a little bit less frequent, but they organize a special meeting when they invite special guests from business, so they invite an accomplished businessman to give a presentation about 30 or 40 minutes. It's not clearly a Toastmaster speech, but it's somebody who has something to say to the topic. And then again, so you have just members of the club, which is about, it's now about 38 people, so let's say 30 people from the club are in the meeting, and another 40 who come there just to listen as if it was a TED talk or something like that. So an example how they are creating this variety for the members. Membership strength. So there was this guideline. The Toastmasters International, in your manuals, you will see 20 members, but after today you know the right number is
30.
Exactly, 30. Well, members are retained. That means we have 10 new members. We don't need to care about the others. That's not the way, because the old members have the knowledge. We want to keep them. Community and programs. That means every meeting it can have a theme, things like that. Toastmasters sponsoring new members are recognized. I will come back to that a little bit later. And membership programs. Do you know what are Toastmasters membership building programs? There are 3 of them in a year. Something new. Alright. Kalin, please, tell us.
About the membership building program?
Yes.
There are 3 of them. The next one will begin in 1st of August. It's called Medley Award. The club registers 5 new members, dual members, or new members, dual members, or confirmed members. Then the club could earn a ribbon to put on the club flag. And the second one is in February, March, and it is called Talk of Toastmasters.
Right.
And the last one actually finished on 1st of July, in fact, June 30th. It's called Beat the Clock and has the same requirements.
Super, thank you. Each of the programs, within 2 months, you get 5 new members. When you do that, you will first of all win eternal fame and glory. And beside eternal fame and glory, you get a nice ribbon for your club banner. I just checked my watch and I realized it's 5. I have about 5 minutes more of material, but I wanted to check with you. Is it okay for you to go 5 more minutes, or would you like to cut and leave now? Whatever is best for you.
5 more.
5 more? Alright, let's do that. Okay, so for this one, there is one thing I truly wanted to highlight, because most people do not know this. I was shocked that I didn't know that for 5 years. I didn't know that. I'm 6 years old. For 1 year, I know already. Did you know that when you bring a person to Toastmasters and another, so there are 5 together, that you actually can get a pin from Toastmasters International? No. Beautiful shiny pin. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You know? Let me finish this one. So what you need to do, the only thing you need to do, you need to tell your VP membership, you know, when as you will be signing Raluca to our club, mark me as her sponsor. 5 people to the club, you get this beautiful pin, another opportunity for eternal fame and glory. Kalin?
Yes, and you can add them in Club Noodle Center. For each new member you add, you can add its sponsor, and Toastmasters will detect immediately one club colleague sponsored 5 or 10 members.
Right, thank you. So that was for the membership, and the last one, achievement recognition, the high fives in the club. One thing that I would like to share, I will look at the points. Well, awards immediately apply, because sometimes people were waiting for 6 months. I didn't get my manuals. It was because the VP Education did not submit their awards. You do not want to be that VP Education. Progress charts are displayed. Good motivation. If somewhere on the wall of your club you have actually the list how people are making progress in their speeches, then Andrei can have a look, Adriana is already 2 speeches ahead of me. Maybe I should sign up for my speech as well. Achievements recognized, and yes, international leaders, publicized, and DCP used for planning and recognition. One thing I would like to highlight, my experience from Prague as Toastmasters, again my home club the first time, but the first year in Toastmasters, my first CC, what I got, when I finished it, I got book. VP Education, when I finished my CC, she invited me on the stage because I was the first CC in the club actually. And I received, in front of 30 other people, I received a book and a gift. And I can tell you it was a moment I remember even now, 5 years later. It's a small thing, it's a small gesture, it costs a little bit of money, but maybe, for example, you can think of, raise a little bit the membership fees you're paying to your club, and from the funds that you get, you can find the ways how you can recognize the people who achieve something. Because when you recognize people who achieve, it will display, it will create a culture of achievement, and it will motivate more people to achieve. Questions to achievement recognition? So let me finish, please.
Is there a danger regarding the lowering of the quality of the speeches, given the fact that we stimulate competition and trying to achieve the end of the track faster?
Good question. My personal opinion is that your Toastmaster speech should not be like the one speech that is going to change the world. Of course, you need to pay attention, you need to read the manual, you need to try to achieve your objectives. But in my eyes, it doesn't make sense to 4 weeks to prepare for one speech, because Toastmasters, this is not TED Talk. TED Talk, you give the talk of your life and you want to impress everyone. Toastmasters is a playground where you want to practice, to quickly get feedback and quickly improve. But again, it's also a question for the VP Education and what is the culture of your club. So the VP Education should kind of set the tone. Final words. How to make sure you won't miss a thing, because these things you don't want this to happen to you, right? What I invite to all of you, because these moments of truth, actually, I have them printed out for each and every person in this room. And more, each of these points is marked with which officer is taking care of that particular point. How does that sound? You can collect them after the finish of the workshop, and they will be over here. Action plan: when you come home, just think about all the moments of truth and how you can make them happen in your club. Maybe you can discuss this already in the evening while playing bowling or while swimming, whatever activities you chose to do for tonight. I will walk through this later for questions. One last thing. What if I told you that your club has already been evaluated on the moments of truth? Did you know that? Who didn't know that? Who didn't know that? Not so many people. Area directors, your area directors, it's their job. They're getting paid quite a big amount of money for this. Well, they're not getting paid for it, but they sign up for it to do it for free. Their job actually is to visit your club 2 times in a year and give you feedback on how you are following up on the moments of truth. Would I suggest to all of you today schedule that club visit with your area director? Would you like to have this visit rather sooner or later?
Later.
I leave it up to you. It's your choice. But discuss with them so that they visit you in time. These people, area director, club president, make them talk. Free your mind, make this visit. And one last thing, what is the magic number? 30. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll be ready for questions throughout the rest